night. Here, maybe I just put that a little bit, turn that music off. Wow, man, from Sexton to McAdoo, Crashadoo, Ironadoo with the ACLs. He's kind of making Jet look bad with going out there and getting an effing podium with an ACL to boom to Malcom. Like, I'm so stoked. I want to be at the Husky after party to be like, you guys are going out of business, but hey, we've got a 2-time winner, and now we've got Malcom. I think Bubba should have ran down there to celebrate with his brother. You know he is right now. But they have won 3 of the 5 races. The Austrian brands have won 3 of the 5 races. Insane, wild, wild night. And hey, you know, I kind of told you guys, racing will be wild. If we talked about my track video from earlier this week, and I literally was talking about the section outside and then tripling and their setup and saying that's going to be the line along with the 90 that was going to happen here. So not to, you know, boost my own horn or toot my own horn, just, you know, maybe just a tad bit, just a little itty bitty bit. I am blown away at what happened, from 2 red flags to so much with the 250 class, but we'll start with the 450 class. First off, okay, not to cloud anything that happened with Malcom, because he was faster. This is honestly one of the reasons why I think radios can be great, but then also maybe not be the best, because if I had a radio, I'd be telling Sexton, yo, motherfucker, you need to triple into the whoops because you're getting your ass kicked right now. Because Malcom is not somebody that you want to have a whoop battle with, because with the straight Red Bull straight rhythm, if we ever do one of those again, Malcom is one of my fastest or best picks there. And we've got so much going on with Kenny, and I do have to talk a little bit about the lappers. Like, dude, I'm a huge proponent of lappers, and it's of privateers in general. You know, it's anonymous lappers with privateers. It's just a big problem because of the discrepancy in equipment. Plain and simple, discrepancy in equipment. I'm going to talk about Kenny. Everyone, the chat is going off with Sexton and so many guys. Okay, but hold on one second here. My train of thought with the privateers is I love them. I was one. I was a habitual lapper, okay? But at the elite level, it should be a works class. It should just straight up be a works class. Get these guys off the track. I know when I had a built motorcycle, I was 4 to 5 seconds a lap faster. Not my technique or anything got better. It was just I was riding better equipment. And you talk about the guys, Hand and Tristan Lane, that were involved with Ken Roxon's deal here. If I put it on the screen to see what was going on here with Hand and Tristan Lane, okay, this was not necessarily anybody's fault. Look at these ruts. The sand section requires you to be WFO, like you're just holding on for dear life, elbows are swinging, and you're just hoping nothing to happen. Because the reason why Levi Kitchen crashed was he pushed out in the sand. Plain and simple. That's what happened. You slow down in the sand, it's going to catch you, and it's going to almost act like landing in mud. You're going to just endo. That's sort of what happened. So this was not a lapper incident, okay? And it is just the reason that they caught up. This was more so of just congestion on the track that caused this. You've got guys that are going 5-ish seconds a lap faster than you, right? And so you're going to run into them. And that's plain and simple. If they would have not had sand here, this would have never happened. So my point being, with the sand section, and so you wouldn't have Kenny not be able to even finish the race because his chain comes off, right? This is is it a Suzuki problem that, like, hey, the chain guide's not as good because it's just this old technology? That's probably too soon. And yeah, I'll talk a little bit about Forkner as well, because truthfully, even if you are sick, it's that mentality here. And I'm a huge Forkner fan, but here, the lappers, they're just not on as good of equipment. Okay, you take the best rider in the world, they're going to be a second, maybe a second and a half slower than what they are on a factory bike. You take a top tier privateer and you put him on his bike versus a privateer bike or a factory bike, he's going to be 3 to 5 seconds a lap faster. I want to see good effing racing. Okay, so the 250 class is a step up class. The 450 class should just be a full blown works class where you have all the bikes that are exceptionally exquisite. Okay. And I know some of the privateers that were involved in this, and I know what their budget is, and they are damn good riders, but the equipment is just $250,000 less of bike to bike comparison. So they should probably be in their own class. Okay. Let them be in another feeder class. That's just plain and simple. That's all I'm going to say about the lappers, because they lapped up to like 9th place, which is just insane. Okay. In 25 minutes of racing with a lap time of around 53 seconds, you should not be lapping up to 9th place. Okay. There's been times when we've seen freaking Carmichael at Daytona lap to 2nd place with all the factory guys. That is not the rule. That is the effing exception, because he's just a badass that could ride really well in the mud. Okay, we've seen Kevin Windham almost pull off the same type of stuff, but we've seen that once in like history. Okay, the rule is that factory equipment is much better. I talked to some of the guys down there at the races I've been going. They have a specific tire with a specific, I don't know, a rubber blend, whatever, just for the factory guys. You can't buy that. So the privateer that's racing against the factory guys has inferior equipment, even in the tires. And I talked to the Oakley guys. They've got custom lenses that are only made for the factory guys. So if I wanted a tinted lens, well, it's not going to be the same as Tomac's lens. And it just goes from there, from boots to whatever. Okay. So it's not fair to have these guys race against them, because truthfully, it not only puts the guys that are actually making money at risk, but it also puts the privateers at risk, right? And yeah, I'm rambling about the privateers here. And it's just super unfortunate that Kenny is now not, he ended up getting last, right? He was down like 8 laps. And you know what? Power to homeboy, Colorado-born Tomac for hanging it out. Right? Truthfully, I don't believe it is a bruised calf. I personally think that it is a broken toes, sprained ankle, maybe broken ankle, maybe tibia plateau fracture, something. And so for the just sheer sense to have him out there here, let me throw it up on here. Dun dun dun. That's MotoGP. We not talking about that till later, but let's look at this. Okay, so he dabs. Boom. And honestly, is that the same ankle that was his Achilles foot? That might be the right side. Somebody in the chat, you'll have to tell me. It was his left side, the one that the Achilles ruptured. Okay, you guys are saying yes. I appreciate. That's why I have you guys in there. And hey, there is 400 people in the chat room right now. Make sure you hit that like button, because the YouTube algorithm just goes off the walls with likes. So let's do that. Okay, you said his left was ruptured. Okay, interesting. And so, and it's not like Tomac he should be a professional poker player after racing, because you do not see him ever wince in pain. And this is visibly, he's over there going, I know what's going on. And why is he holding the back of his ankle? He's holding not the toes, he's holding the back of the ankle. This is, I believe, a injury of that Achilles. Okay. It is something that he had fixed, and it's just a lingering thing. You know, sometimes there's a saying that, hey, when you get knocked out, you got to get back up, because you're going to get back up stronger and better. But there's also a saying that most of the retired SOBs in moto realize, is that sometimes when you get knocked down, you don't get back up the same. And I have to give a big shout out to Max Volan. with having a dislocated hip and then now having to use a handbrake on his clutch. Truthfully, I would have had it probably on the rear brake so you could hit both of them at the same time. And I am entirely sympathetic for him because I have foot drop on my rear brake and riding is very difficult for me because I can't fucking feel the rear brake. So him to be racing at a professional level with the handbrake and making the main event says so much about these individuals. And for Tomac, I think he is more injured than what he is leading on. For him to be riding around in last place, watching him on the start where he had a beautiful gate pick on the far inside, for him not to push, okay? And Tomac he's got this sense of being where you've got two different types of people that crumble under pressure and then people that are exceptional under pressure. And Tomac is the latter, exceptional under pressure. And for him not to push the issue totally told you that his game plan was just get some points, just get some points. And honestly, if he's able to ride and race the rest of the year, he made points on Kenny. He made points on some guys that were beating him in the championship because other things that were out of everybody's control ended up happening with, hey, here's what's going on with Kenny's bike. Well, it's a Suzuki. Maybe he needed a kickstart. Maybe he was over there thinking like, man, where's the electric start on this? Because dun. And, and honestly, yes, when Faulkner tipped over, I just wonder if the thing went kaboom, right? And that's the problem with having that stuff. In road racing, I'm all for the airbags, okay? But you can't get back on the motorcycle. Because when you crash in road racing, the motorcycle is in pieces. It's in shambles. You could go run out onto the track and try to, oh, here's my front fairing. Oh, okay, now I got to go pick up my front wheel. And now I'm going to get back on and race at 200 miles an hour. Not going to happen. Moto is a little bit different. So if those things pop, are you still going to be able to ride? And truthfully, if I'm backing up with Hunter crashing, now both the freaking Lawrence brothers are out. It just the irony with the Lawrence brothers are out while the Stewart brothers are now Supercross winners is just so cool for the Stewart brothers, bad for the Lawrence brothers. And they have special. Have you seen the ads that have come up about Alpine Star's new, not just their blow up, chest protector that I'm sure every woman would love to have that chest protector, right? Because I'm joking. I'm trying to, I'll make, yeah, my wife would hit me if she was behind me for that. But anyway, I digress. Alpine Stars has making new jerseys that are supposed to help with shoulder impacts, because usually what happens is you either break your collarbone or your AC joint, you separate your shoulder. And the rumor is that Hunter has a broken collarbone. Maybe it's a separated shoulder, but more than likely it's a broken collarbone. If it's a broken collarbone, great. They'll plate it. He'll be back in a week to 2 weeks. He'll be fine. If it's a separated shoulder, it's going to be at least 3 to 6 weeks before he's able to ride through the whoops here. But that is a bummer. It makes it almost act like maybe he should have had the Alpine Star blow up boobs that I want to say for helping him, because then he wouldn't have broken his collarbone. And truthfully, with the 250 class, I want to know what happened to Brown, dude. Those whoop sections were taking everybody out. They took out Sexton. They took out multiple people. And we had the first red flag, I believe. Was it because of the triple or was it the whoops again? Anyway, the point being is Brown was out front hauling effing ass. And then he goes down and we don't know. Did he wake up? Is he okay? That's the first thing that I'm looking at is I want to know if he's okay. Because heaven forbid something's really bad. Not just paralysis, but I'm hoping nothing is bad. Maybe he just got knocked out and just mild concussion, because I don't want to see a rider of that caliber get that injured. Okay. And man, Levi, what is going on with PC? if it wasn't for the first red flag start, he was riding out there with a choke. I'm like, are you kidding me? Professional? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm all for, shame on me, but riding with your choke on is not good. That's not going to build faith in the motorcycle and pretty much everybody on that team. Honestly, it seems like if somebody was to say, hey, Deegan, I know your contract's up, but we're going to give you $27 million to come race for Mitch Payton, I would say, don't do it. Don't do it, because there's just a cloud over them that whatever you do, something's bad going to happen. And McAdoo is just the tough SOB that honestly is making a little bit of a stinger on Jet, where if you saw my news show, I said that it was good for Jet to take the time off. It was smart for him, because you know what Jet has that Cameron, I believe, doesn't? Jet has a retirement already if he's smart with his money. And yes, with all the bitterness with Lucas Myrtle, I'm assuming that they have done so well that he could retire right now and be just fine, try to keep a minor part of his lifestyle up and would be okay. So, and with his contracts with Lucas, he probably didn't have a injury clause that is hindering his decision. Like, oh man, I really don't want to take this time off. And I can't because I'm not going to get paid. Where who knows what's going on with Cameron? I've seen some of the contracts on the 250 class, and let's just say you're only as good as your last race. So I do believe, my own honest opinion is that had something to do with why Cameron goes out there and basically gladiators himself time and time again. It's not by so much choice. It's because, hey, I've got a family I got to take care of, right? That's why those contracts, which I am going to give a small little hats off to the Lawrence's camp, is to be making that stuff viable and beneficial for the riders. Where in the 250 class, it's more so much like, what can you do for us rather than what can I do for you? But he did prove that if Jet wanted to come out there, he could come out there this last weekend and he could perform, and he could perform exceptionally well. Right? I do think that if Jet decided to race, Jet probably could have been on the podium. And honestly, if he's just sitting back and he's having some of his Liquid Death, not sponsored, but if there is a Liquid Death rep out there, I would love some cases of this stuff, right? Found out what freaking Whitaker's is from Cole Davies. It looks like damn good chocolate, right? So hopefully he's getting a sponsorship from those guys too. Maybe even Costco could hook me up with something. I know their stock just hit an all-time high, so they could spare a few cookies here and now again. But again, I'm freaking digressing here. My point being is, if Jet is probably kicking himself in the rear right now going, dude, you mean Tomac's out now? Sexton finished 5th after leading the entire race up until like the last few laps. At one point he had a 9-second lead and he ends up 5th. Could have never told that. Like, really the only guy that really benefited from this stuff, not to mention Husky with Malcom having, I believe, is it their first 450 win? Maybe. But not only that, but his first 450 win, good bonus with that. But Webb is really the only guy that benefited from this. I got to look back at the points, because I think he was down maybe 6 points, 3 points, while Kenny was down 2. Kenny's shooting himself in the foot with what was going on with the lappers. And I know that he's not afraid to air out what's going on. And truthfully, the sport is changing to the point where the Supercross futures are going to take out the privateers. And I believe that is honestly kind of a necessity, but we should have another class built for these guys, because truthfully, if you did not have half the field on there that were paying to race, paying to participate, bringing their own stuff, paying $50,000 to $100,000 or more to race these 17 Supercross rounds, well, then there would be 5 guys on the line. And so far, we've had so many riders get hurt. And this was a gnarly freaking race, right? I said it in my track analysis video that this is going to be one to watch with the sand section. And I've got lots of different tidbits that, I've got 5 pages of notes here that I written down for some of the stuff, but now we have Jet out. Now we have freaking Hunter out, and I'm calling hire Justin Hill. HRC Honda right now, put Justin effing Hill on that damn dirt bike. You have 2 dirt bikes that are sitting there. You have obligations now to quad lock and, your big sister company, not sister company, or ownership company, HRC Honda, from back in Japan. You need a rider. Put Justin effing Hill on that damn motorcycle. Let him ride both the bikes, right? Let him sign up. Hymas isn't really showing much. Joe Shimoda's injured. He's finally got some time off where he'll come back and potentially win again, and more talking about the 250s. I kind of predicted that RJ was going to lose by taking RJ out. That's somewhat of his MO, is he takes himself out, which is a bummer. And he tried to jump over a corner marker and landed on it, and it ruined his race. That's some of the stuff that just ends up happening, And if I have to talk about Max Anstey, dude, I always mess up his name. Man, school was difficult for me. It's got to be the dyslexia something, right? I haven't gotten tested, but I'm sure if I got tested on many things, I'd be on the spectrum all over the place. I've turned all my Apple TVs and I turn all my stuff inverted because my brain doesn't function the right way. It always has to be backwards, right? My mouses are moved backwards. Anyway, that's just a fun tidbit about me. My point being is he's 31 years old and he goes out and wins. Jordan Smith with Triumph is over there going like, dude, I'm 28. Why couldn't you pay me some bonuses? And I'm thinking the same thing with the Firepower Honda that Anstey he won on that motorcycle. But again, it was a little bit of an inferior motorcycle, which in my opinion was holding him back. And now that he's on the best bike on the paddock, the Star Yamaha, what do we see? We see Max be the fastest qualifier at 31 years old. We see Max get out front. We see Max triple into the whoops. We see Max win on the Star Yamaha, and he doesn't look surprised. He looks like this was what was destined to happen. And if I have to talk about Triumph, as much as I love Forkner, right? Because he's been through a lot. Again, sometimes you just don't get up the same. I mean, for crying out loud, he went through brain surgery. So there's so much that this guy has overcome with adversity. However, if I'm a Triumph rep, and I believe, I don't know for a fact, but what I've heard through the woodwork is that he had a guaranteed 450 ride with Kawasaki that he potentially gave up to sign with Triumph to stay in the 250 class, right? And to me, they were both somewhat of the guys that were coming up. And now Sexton is a 450 winner, a champion. Jett is a 450 winner and a champion. And Forkner is still stuck in the 250 class. Granted, can't take anything away from him because he's won many races and he's got a resume that speaks of itself. But also it's clouded by just this, I want to say, asterisk that is shifted his stock value. And at Triumph, Jordan Smith is leading the charge with being on the podium every round besides one. And then what does Forkner come out and do? And Forkner comes out, doesn't get a podium for Triumph. He's the only guy up there. It's a bummer to see. I was expecting so much more from Forkner. And with that being freaking said, okay, I hope that there is a giant after party going on with the soon bankrupt Austrian company, which isn't going to happen. They're going to make it out alive. But isn't it funny that maybe it's just a collusion with the Peer Mobility Group where they're like, hey, let's just pretend to sell off all of our assets and let's just pretend to tell our riders that you don't have jobs next year and they're going to do so much better, right? And what happens? Malcom finally freaking wins, okay? And Sexton almost was going to be a 3-time winner of 5 rounds. And he's, again, that dude is probably just, what was going on there? I don't believe he is injured, where I believe Tomac is injured, because Tomac is that poker face where he doesn't show of motion. And I don't know why that is backwards, but I'm going to have to fix that. But I appreciate the subscription. And what happened with his motorcycle is there was something that happened, whether it was the front wheel that's tweaked or something. I really wish I was down there on the track so I could show you guys what the whoops look like, because that was a pretentious area where it took out a lot of guys. So that was very interesting. So I believe it was just a bike malfunction after he crashed. He crashed his own at his own will, right? And maybe he was thinking, you know, we've all been there, even professionals go through there. And I'm sure you guys have some sort of an experience as well that you could be like, hey, I'm out front, you know, the white flag hits, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake, don't make a mistake. And then bam, you make a mistake. Okay. And with the sand section being pretty much right after the whoops there, you could tell that when Sexton, is going through the sand, he's looking out the corner of his eyes and he sees this SOB on this Husky that is, you know, running out of funding. Just start catching your ass. Okay. This Husky is coming from a mix between Gas and Husqvarna mingled into a white and red what semi truck. Did you see that? My brain, the mouth fell off there for a second. And yeah, I really have to fix that because that is really fucking with me here with the subscriber, the new thing, be it backwards. My OCD is like, there's something wrong here. I've got to have to look at my OBS here after there. But yeah, he may have. And that is something that we have seen him before. So that is a fair statement to make, Brian, because what have we seen from Sexton on his Honda days? He should have a pedigree of at least 5 more wins. 5 more wins, okay, where he crashes out front at his own will. He is the RJ Hampshire of the 450 class. And that is a bummer to make the notion. Both of those riders are incredibly well-rounded and good riders. I just expected Chase to not have this anymore. Yeah, sometimes shit happens, okay? But lightning, if it strikes twice in the same area, it didn't happen just out of the sheer algorithmic world of the metaverse that this was programmed to do it. There's something else going on there, right? And that's where I look for. If I was to honestly ask Chase a honest question, and if he was to give me an honest answer, I would say, hey, who's your mental coach? Who is talking to you to be able to push you through some of that stuff? Because again, riding at 110% is going to be interesting. It's difficult, and for these guys. And when you have somebody, Malcom, catching you, that's going to be incredibly difficult. But I am done. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and notification icon. And we are in for a good series. I'm glad Kenny is healthy. Healthy. I am hoping Hunter is back within a couple weeks after having surgery, potentially on his collarbone. I hope Brown is A-okay. And I hope Tomac is freaking okay, because it's only round 5. And you're telling me we're missing quite a bit of the PC team, you know, look like they were under a microscope with magnifying glass with the sun, and they were little ants here, just one by one, light on fire, boom, 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 boom. And Team Honda now, boom, they're on fire, right? So who's going to win the series? It looks like maybe Webb is going to freaking win the series again. Wow. But I don't want to see Tomac come off that way, but I'm digressing again. So guys, hey, enjoy your weekend. If you ride in, stay safe. And this is Johnny Hopper.